I want to bring awareness to an issue that is on my mind. It's one of the reasons why I use YouTube so much, because I used to use Discord for a brief time near the end of the COVID lockdown, and then about maybe a year or two ago, probably just 1 year, I stopped using it. And so now I'm on YouTube mostly, and because I want to chat with people, I'm not finding what I want in my social life, um, and it's easier for me to express myself chatting with text because of what I believe is brain damage that I have from psychiatric medication during my brain development. And also other things too, like I didn't stay sober, and I consumed drugs, recreational drugs that hurt my brain, one of them being alcohol, and I was drunk and I hit my head very hard, and so it still hurts and it feels weird. And I hit it against a glass door, a Walgreens, a glass door, so it's good to warn people about those things. I had a friend who passed away, unfortunately, in a similar manner, and so I'm lucky to be alive. Um, I also believe I was born with a genetic disorder, um, and so that may contribute to the way that I am. And so I didn't fulfill. I had a lot of interruptions in my childhood, and didn't fulfill, my expectations, and I wanted to socialize with people, and I haven't had the most fulfilling experience with that, because people in this world are very different, and it's hard to find people that are in love with the same things and have the same privilege that I do, and so the inequality and things of this world are not good. They create barriers between people, and that's why I dislike those things. Um, I've also, in the past, the way that I learned about Discord was through a chat room that I had been part of in 2015 on a IRC server called SNUNet. And then back then I didn't really know what IRC was. I was connecting it through Kiwi IRC, which is a website uh, where you can connect to IRC. I learned many years later that IRC is a protocol similar to HTTPS. It's just a way for devices to connect, and so this is a text chat based protocol that was popular in the 90s, and it's not very safe because when you connect, you show your IP address, and so people can know where you live. They can know different things, approximate, and then you give more details, they can figure things out easily. And so um, that's why it's important to use a VPN, which is a virtual private network. It gives you another IP address and it makes it look like you're from somewhere else. However, I hadn't used those things, and so I believe that caused me a lot of trouble in life and exposed me to harmful people and or people that do harm, that did harm. Uh, they made bad choices. I made bad choices, and so around 2015, I was in this chat room. It was about the Syrian civil war, and people were talking about Discord, and I didn't trust it because it just seemed like one step further to becoming identifiable. Even though I gave out a lot of personal information, I didn't want to be connected to that. And um, yet I had seen similar things in the past. When I was a kid, I played video games and was in video game clans and things like that. And they used TeamSpeak, which was sort of and then Steam, ended up becoming something similar to what Discord is. And so, um, and so, so then, so then eventually I gave in and I was like, okay, let's check this thing out. And I had a lot of bad experiences on it because I was honest about my age, and a lot of the people there were younger users, and so I would get discriminated, and the type of conversations that I would have were just it wasn't reciprocable. I wasn't be able to reciprocate things, and it would be a lot of silence, and people didn't match my energy. So it wasn't really pleasurable. And when I did meet match energies, it was with people that I found different, or I wasn't comfortable with. And so I those are the sort of experiences that I found that were influenced me to decide to leave it. And so I left it, and then I got very lonely, and I came back, and then I mostly used servers that were language based. So everything that had to do with languages, everything that I had to do uh, with um, with uh, plants, gardening, religion, and I've learned a lot of things from you know Discord. There's a lot of very smart people out there. Uh, like there was a biblical Hebrew Discord, which was um, very insightful, and got me to think about things that I hadn't. Yeah, even there's it's just I started realizing that there was something wrong with it because the users there were really young. They were younger than they were supposed to be, and I remember I was like that when I was a kid. When I would play video games, I'd lie about my age. I joined a clan. I was supposed to be 16. I wasn't. Um, and so I can't judge people for doing that. Yet it's not something that I really wanted to be a part of, especially because of what I am showing here. This is not safe for work. This is porn. This is naked pictures of people, and people are uploading these things. And so this is a software that it has a mostly younger crowd, and is interacting with this, and so it's very problematic, and it's bad karma. Really, in many ways, my life was very negatively affected by pornography and all those things that you can associate with that, because it affected the way that my energy. I didn't learn about this until I started studying Baba Haru, and Baba Haru would talk about not, uh, you know, masturbating and doing these things that you know release or waste energy. And I'm not an extremist. I think that you know humans are humans, and these are sensitive personal matters that are complicated. Yet our society doesn't really teach these things, and we don't really learn them until it's too late. Because then at a certain age, your body starts to change and you lose energy. And preserving energy in your life, in your vitality, is a really important thing. And so it's very sad when you get old and you realize you won't ever be young again, and you realize that one of the reasons why you never experienced formative life during your childhood, during your teens, during your early adulthood, was because of these inappropriate things that were being shared. And likewise, I'm often concerned that this channel is being viewed by younger people, and I recommend younger people not to view my channel because the youth is supposed to be spent doing inspiring things. I had a babysitter who luckily helped me, get out of the house, and those are some of my most formative memories. Was when people would do that. Otherwise, I would be stuck at home, and my parents would be working, and I would be alone. So, and I often felt a little bit of a disconnect with my family. That is another matter. Yet, going out, and we went to like a strawberry field. I remember that. We went to a botanical garden. Uh, we went, just going out biking with friends, getting into trouble, little trouble, not big trouble. And so I'm glad that I got to do those things in my youth. Sometimes people wait to get into trouble when they're older, and that can be problematic. Um, Going around and ding dong ditching and things like that, which are not good. That's bad karma too. I've seen the pattern of my suffering in my life, and it resembles, the bad things that I did as a kid. So yeah, a lot of the information that I share is information that I enjoy now as an adult, yet it took me a long time to get to where I am now. It took me a long time of developing certain things, and I was sort of conditioned to be emotionally, um, receptive to things that could uh, hurt other people, and it maybe has hurt me in some ways too, because sometimes it's, the information of history, the information of these big topics is they're really big, and so even as adults, if we're not prepared to deal with some information, it can be a struggle. So there's always, it's not just not safe for work stuff. There's adult material that can be traumatic in other ways, not just on Discord, all over the internet, and And yet I don't believe in censorship. I don't think that that's the appropriate way, um, because a lot of this information, at least the history stuff, the adult stuff of complicated worldly matters that might not feel good necessarily, but are important to know about. Those things are good when people seek them out, and so yet the not safe for work stuff, you know, it's mostly bad, to me, and it's our society has normalized it, the United States especially, and it's been my experience being very exposed to that, and it negatively affected me because of my genetic condition, which I didn't really realize I had until I got older and started looking at myself and comparing myself to my brothers, that I realized, like, wow, yeah, I do look different, in a in a sort of different way, in a like I have a condition, and that corroborated with my experiences. Trauma is the first memory of life, was having a surgery on my private part. So it's difficult to talk about, yet it's my life. And so the not safe for work stuff affected me in a way that it doesn't affect other people, because my body was already sensitive to that stuff. Now, granted, if people don't have these things in their life, given the current culture that we live in, is there going to be some other way that these negative forces within us, are just consequential forces within us? Are they going to cause problems elsewhere? That's what some people will say, and it really just takes time to become one with yourself and comfortable with yourself, just like any habit or addiction. It can be difficult for people to let go of a certain sensory pattern or a certain uh, cycle of actions and things like that. So people, that people love to joke around. It's easier to joke around. So yet the benefit of this information is great, and I wish that I would have had access to that information when I was a kid. Now, I believe that the reason why I didn't, and the reason why I do now at the most inconvenient time, is because of generational curses. And I believe that we all are under some generational curse, many of us, because there's been a lot of violence in the history of the world, and especially in the United States. This continent was colonized. And so um, I believe that we suffer from the individual actions of our ancestors, and God knows, um, yet we're not accountable for the things of our ancestors. No one is accountable. That's what the Quran teaches. And so, and many other religious books, we're accountable for what we do. Yet I do see a pattern in my life that seems to indicate that the way we struggle, the pattern of our struggle, is formed by the actions of our ancestors. And so And so it's important to have good karma. It's important to do good things, to be good, to be kind to yourself, to be kind to others. And those are things that I learned thanks to people in my life, thanks to people that I met here in the United States. It's a complicated world. And so we all suffer from traumas. And that's one of the reasons why this sort of situation occurs. This, furry and LGBTQ, I don't support it. I don't promote it. I tolerate it. It's something that, if there people are into that stuff, a lot of times, some of this, the LGBTQ, a lot, that's deeper ingrained into a person in many ways. And so, who am I to tell somebody who they are? Yet I wouldn't promote something that I don't live or don't want to live. Um, and so, and so that's that. I don't see it as the worst thing. That's if people want to find a place to do that. Yeah, it could be confusing for kids, and that is problematic to me. Thanks to God, I never had that sort of exposure because a lot of the interactions that I had growing up were playing video games where that wasn't around. So, although I did suffer other things, I suffered from a lot of hate and maybe toxic masculinity because of the worldview I formed around the video games I played and the communities that I was a part of, um, or wanted to be a part of. So, like I said, I can't judge other people because God is the judge and He'll know more than we do about each other, and it's a complicated world. Yet children are malleable either way, and so that we want to be careful with karma and how we treat children. And this is, again, it says dating here. And so these are categories for different Discord servers. There's probably like 50 different dating servers. And, you look at the titles and they'll say, um, da 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 da, what's it called? Different, 9K. All right, so look at that. That's so, you have a lot of different communities here, that are based on different um, things. Some good things, some you know personal things, and some sexual things that are really not appropriate. They're not appropriate for kids. They're not. It's not good for the formation of people to be in an environment with older people. Much older than me, because I'm 32. Anyone can download this, and I've talked to people who are 50, years old, or around there. So yeah, is it a bad thing to be chatting with people, seeking to find communication and expression and all these things? I don't think so. I think this is why it exists. Yet it's very unfortunate that it's has to be about these topics. And um, and so and so that's one of the reasons why I don't support Discord. And I warn people to consider leaving it and finding some other alternative or creating another alternative, because this place is going to eventually cause problems for people, and they're going to be real problems. And the authorities are going to come, and they're going to, you know, press charges, fine people, arrest people. These are injustices. So it's not okay to be involved with this. And these injustices, even if you get away with them in this world, God knows. And to a lot of people, God seems like something fake because they were never taught what God really means. Since the Germanic cultures were colonized and, Christianized, the word God has sort of lost its meaning. So a lot of people find then meaning in the Abrahamic religions when they talk about Allah. And Allah is the movement of everything. And that's what it originally meant. Thanks to Jewish people in my life, I know that. I learned that from them. And and likewise, the sacred name, Yahuwah Eloheinu, it's been made so sacred that it's been hidden. Yet that word hu, I believe, is related to the word hub. And so it is communicating different things about existence, about love. When I was a kid, I went back to Chile, and a Chilean priest, Catholic priest, had taught us in a class. We had a class that was dedicated to learning about the Catholic religion, the religion of the private school, or just, was the religion. And he taught that love is not just romantic, it's platonic. When we care about our friends, when we care about our family, when we care about people in life, when we treat strangers kindly, when we give, homeless people the, things that they need to survive, and help them, lift them out of their suffering, and all these other amazing acts of kindness that are in the world that we can focus on, that is love. Yet when there are injustices in society like war and other forms of violence, sexual violence, or other things, it causes love to be corrupted, and then it becomes perceived in only one way. And so that way is it can create more destruction, because it devalues the sort of love that we really need. And the way of our ancestors, of all the people that lived before us, was to cooperate. And many people talk about this. One documentary called I Am by Tom Shadyac was shown to us during high school during the Bible as Literature course, and they taught that Charles Darwin wrote a lot about love in nature and how the forces of nature cooperate, and how evolution is very cooperative, and species are often surviving as groups that cooperate. And yet the other side of that, the other element was competition, and that was what people talked about more. And so we don't know about what Charles Darwin wrote about because few of us study his writings. And and so and so that's the way, is cooperating and working together, because that's how things exist. That's how the atoms work. That's how all the things that we enjoy in life work together that way. And and so we might be going through a hard time, might be wronged by somebody, might think that that's a bad thing. I've thought that too. And so, yet it becomes interesting to find the strangeness in existence and experience some of the paranormal and the miracles of life. And so, these things are sacred things because they're foundational to our development as people. And that's why it's bad karma if we break these things, especially towards young people. And so this is my video to warn people about Discord and why I don't use it, and why I chose to use YouTube instead as one of my main platforms. So that's it. Wish you a good one.